Summer routines live or die by how easy they are. And honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We are talking to Saara Hassoun today, and she's the brand new Chief of Staff for Minnesota Aurora and already dynamic and doing a huge mental health initiative with this team. We all love Aurora anyway, but I can't wait to introduce you to Saara. This will be a great conversation coming up.
It will. Thanks to Saara for coming on. Thanks to Dawn for lining this up. This is Dawn of Sports. We're coming to the Aquarius Home Services studio. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at talknorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. This time of the year, 3 Viking shows. We talk Lynx on this show as well. They're heading into the playoffs. We have pretty much all the best experts on all the sports covered. Dawn's show, of course, interview show. We highlight powerful women. We also talk Vikings and everything else. So please come back. Keep checking this show out. We had Ben Williams on recently, the former Gopher and Viking defensive lineman. A great story about his life in football and his life, being an organ recipient and how that changed his life. We love telling these kinds of stories. So looking forward to this today. Go ahead, Dawn.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Well, Saara, with no further ado, welcome to our podcast. And I'm so excited to talk Aurora soccer with you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and talking Aurora soccer is my favorite thing to do. So it's going to be fun.
It's kind of been a whirlwind for you, kind of jumping in and then taking over as chief of staff. How's it been for you?
Oh, it's been fantastic. It has certainly been a whirlwind. I would expect nothing less from the sports world. I was actually just saying I moved to Minnesota barely over 4 months ago. And it certainly seems like it has both been longer and shorter. We've crammed a fantastic Aurora season into that. I've been able to go to a Lynx game, to a United game. I hit up the state fair, which was in the best possible way, mind-blowingly amazing. So it's really been a joy to enter this community and see what Aurora and Minnesota and the Twin Cities are all about.
Well, I think it's a feather in your cap because I feel like you've been here longer. Like I'm on the longer end because of this season and knowing how it went and talking to Andrea. So I had to double check when we first were getting you on the show. I'm like, well, it's been here like a year or 2, right? And I'm like, no, oh my goodness. So the fact that people already know you and think of you with Aurora that much, that means that you just jump in head first. So that is a feather in your cap, just so you know that.
Well, thank you. I think it's a testament to the Aurora community and the Twin Cities community in general, the sort of love and welcome that I've been embraced with just because I'm affiliated with Aurora and just because, I'm part of this amazing team has been honestly unlike anything I've ever experienced anywhere else. So I think it really is a feather in the cap of our Aurora family and the Twin Cities in general.
And before we jump into even more the amazing things that you are doing in the off season and the club let's put a capper for those who just love Aurora and they don't want to let it go, even though some of your young women are already off to pro, back to their college programs. Sometimes people just don't want to let them go. The season, once again, producing so many tremendous women that are going on to bigger and better things. And I know they all want to leave with the championship, but the reality is only one team does. That doesn't mean that that's the only avenue for success. Like that's not how you measure a club. But yes, there's disappointment, but to see all of the young women go overseas or go back to their programs, and I'm already seeing them saying like they're the player of the week in their soccer program already. How does that make you feel?
We are just so proud of these women and these athletes and these players. To your point, I think, we all would have liked to win a championship. Everybody always wants to win, but only one team can win. And I think it's actually, a testament to what's happening in women's soccer and what's happening in this league, that it's getting harder and harder every year. And we're still right up there. We're hosting semifinals, having these amazing results. And really, I think what we want to do here and what's most important to us is that we're setting these women up for success in the rest of their lives and their careers. We've had two players go on to the USL Super League, the Division I professional league here in the US. To your point, we've had a lot of our women go back to their collegiate programs and be players of the week, players of the game, scoring amazing goals, having amazing games. And so for us, if they can leave this space better than they were when they came, whether that's in the skills that we're giving them off the pitch, the preparedness we're giving them for their future, for their careers, or whether that's, in their skills as a soccer player and helping support them to reach their goals of going pro and continuing to shine at their collegiate level. We're just so proud of them. And what I keep saying is I think really the script writers just thought that our 5th anniversary was the time to win the first championship.
That's
so,
right.
they're just holding on to it for us for next year. I think it's more poetic that way.
Absolutely. I love that. And, right when you said that, I was thinking of you're now graduating like your first 4-year players like Mariah Wynn, some young women that I kind of feel like it's kind of like a college, where they came in their very first time and then they weren't quite sure. And she said that Aurora gave her the joy to play soccer again. It was becoming a chore. And then to see her now, like kind of age, out or go on to bigger and better things. She's just one of many, in addition to the great soccer, in addition to the great foundation that you're giving them as young women. But the fact that they say, I found joy again with the way this club is run, with the way my teammates are to me, with the way the fans are, on just such a different level. That means so much, doesn't it? It's I know it's an intangible, but to know that you affected a player on that level in their life is truly amazing.
No, Dawn, you're 100% right. I think it is one of the highest compliments that we can receive here at Aurora is helping these athletes rediscover their joy of the game. And honestly, it's not just our athletes. I've heard this from, members of our staff and folks who are working with us who, for one reason or another, have lost that spark and that love and that sort of initial fire for this game and for this world that we live in this world of soccer. And so to hear, multiple athletes and staff members say that coming to Aurora, either, someone like Mariah, who's been here for 4 years, or even some of our athletes who've only been here for one, to understand that it is possible to exist on a team where your teammates are supporting you and the club is run, in a way that really makes you feel valued. That's one of the reasons that I came to Aurora. I did a piece of work after Aurora's first season through my consultancy on athlete well-being, just to evaluate the well-being of athletes here at Aurora. And honestly, I have never heard such a consistently positive feedback from athletes about the club. It was mind-boggling to me. And so, I had to keep my eye on this club. And when this opportunity came around, it was a no-brainer because of that joy and that intentionality around being, a safe place for our athletes to really either discover or rediscover that love for the game.
Well, absolutely. And I love how you say you're so conscious of it. You did co-found HT Sports Consulting. And in addition to that, not only were you building a company like the badass you are, you're also chief of staff at Gotham FC for the NWSL. And to do both of those, first of all, is amazing. To do one of those is amazing. So here you are with Gotham. And then even before that, you already have your sports consulting firm. How did you decide I want to do sports consulting and then I want to go into women's soccer more so specifically and kind of help this realm? What was your thought? Like, what aimed you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a soccer fan my whole life. I always joke I grew up in Texas, but neither of my parents are from the US. So football always was soccer in my household, which is, a little sacrilegious to say in Texas, but it's the truth. I had my mom taking me out of high school to come home and watch Champions League games in the middle of the day. So, that love for soccer has really always been something that's existed. And, I started my career outside of the soccer space in management consulting and project management, and got the opportunity to support on just a passion project with a friend who was advising a group of investors who were looking to launch their own women's soccer team. And they asked me to come on to support them in their business strategy and project management. And as part of that journey, we spent a lot of time speaking to club owners, to leagues, to athletes, to really understand how we could build a club differently, how we could make sure that the way that we were building a club was really athlete centered and supported them in their well-being and their safeguarding and all of those pieces. And, unfortunately, the answer I kept getting to a question I kept asking of, how do you strategize about athlete well-being? What does your strategy building look like? How are you proactive about this? The answer I kept getting from all of these stakeholders was, we kind of try to do our best. If you figure it out, would you let us know? Like, give me a call. And so obviously with my background, I'm really fortunate to be the daughter of a serial entrepreneur in the best kind of way. My father is, always one to support an idea and to really help me think through any crazy idea in my head. And so, I kind of thought, well, I could figure this out, that this isn't rocket science. It just takes some intention and some strategy. So I ended up putting together a pilot study of 25 athletes across 9 different professional leagues just to understand what athlete well-being even was, because I was starting to notice that clubs really, I think, managed to muddy the waters sometimes in a way that was really unhelpful to the athletes, right? So you'd have a club saying, no, we really care about athlete well-being. It's really important to us. Our coaching staff is incredible. And we have all of these, resources around performance and medical. And then you talk to their athletes and they'd say, yeah, well, that's all well and good, but my housing is terrible. And I haven't been given a car that's functional, and I can't get to and from training, and it's taking up all of my mental space, and I'm exhausted, I'm stressed. And so, you realized, maybe that's my consulting background, but I wanted a definition, right? I wanted a common definition that we could all evaluate ourselves on and really hold ourselves to the same standards our athletes wanted us held to. And so did this pilot study. And I don't think it will surprise anybody. The athletes knew all along. The athletes all had a common definition. It ends up, being these sort of 10 buckets that fall into well-being. And so when I discovered that, I thought, well, hey, you know what? I can help clubs with this. This is a really solid base that I can help clubs build strategy and intention around. And so through that work, I was doing a little bit of work with Gotham at that point, and this opportunity for the chief of staff role came up, and it was just one of those, once in a lifetime, can't pass up opportunities. And I'm incredibly lucky to have an incredibly supportive partner who said, yeah, I know we just moved back to Texas 6 months ago, but heck yeah, that's an amazing opportunity and you have to go for it. And so it all kind of unfolded from there.
Great conversation. We will continue. We'll tell you about a really cool Minnesota Aurora initiative you probably heard about. We'd like to get more into it. First, we're going to take care of the business of the business. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Hey everyone, John Krasinski here to celebrate with you that football season is finally upon us. Join me on the Viking Update Show for all the latest action, insights, and stories from the field. Jim Suin and I will have everything you need on our podcast on the Talk North Podcast Network.
And back to Dawn.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, Jim, you transitioned quite nicely. If anyone has been paying attention to any of the socials, sorry, you guys are on fire when it comes to supporting mental health, and specifically with your initiative for the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And you've been partnering with so many different professional teams. And just recently, because the Viking season is upon us, I'm seeing big names like Aaron Jones, CJ Ham, Andrew Van Ginkel, I believe also Josh Metellus, kind of
Yeah.
jumping on board to lend their support. And these are just a few of the many. Can you tell us more about this mental health initiative that is so near and dear to Aurora and especially so important? And I say so in Minneapolis now after coming on the heels of the Annunciation shooting, and we know which is a bigger prolific issue in our country. How did this start? And how did you get all these other teams to jump on board and support? It's been incredible.
It has been incredible. And we are so grateful to these other teams and to these athletes across the country and the Twin Cities for really jumping on this with us. We've had this partnership with NAMI Minnesota this whole season, and we put the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on our warm up jerseys this year to really help raise awareness and get the word out there about this really incredible resource. And when the season wrapped and we looked at these kits that we had and we heard the demand from our fans for the warm up jerseys, and kind of looked at, to your point, what was going on in our community, in our country, we felt like it was really important that we continued to support NAMI and 988 in a really material way. I think, with funding getting cut and resources being directed away from these really incredible and honestly life-saving organizations, we knew that we had an opportunity here. And, I have to say we have just incredible organizations around the Twin Cities. Every single team from the Frost to the Lynx, the Vikings, the Wild, the Twins, the Saints, Minnesota United, the Vixen, the Wind Chill, every single one, when we reached out, immediately was ready to jump on this and help us in supporting this amazing cause. And so, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of coordination, but that piece of it was easy. They all said, you know what, heck yeah, this is an important initiative and we're more than happy to lend our support. So, like you said, the Vikings, Aaron Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel had amazing games last night. We saw an incredible Vikings win, which we were so happy about. It's just great to see all of these teams across the community and athletes from sort of across the country step up and really, put their names behind such an incredible initiative.
How can people that are listening to this, how can they get involved? Where can they find out more information and either lend financial support or any other support?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So you can find all of the links to the auction on our website at mnaurora.com. The auction itself runs through September 20th. So you've got some time to kind of keep an eye on those jerseys, figure out which athlete signatures you want to bid on. There's resources there as well to help point people over to NAMI Minnesota. Anybody who wants to get involved with that support, whether that's through their time, through volunteering, through donating. NAMI.org/988 has a lot of really incredible resources and information just about the amazing and impactful work that NAMI is doing. I mean, they are providing support and education and resources to over 53,000 Minnesotans every year. They've got 73 groups statewide. There's so much work that's happening that NAMI is doing to really support our community that anybody who's interested in getting involved with that, whether that's through our auction or through NAMI directly, I would highly encourage to do so.
That is so fantastic. I know that there's so many teams are put under the spotlight sometimes to and I hate to put it this way, but pick a cause. And I love now that clubs are really thinking deeply about what cause really aligns with our goals and what is so important to us right now. And to choose this and then to have the kind of feedback and the support, where I think in years past, I think it's just really been maybe a priority recently, which we love to see. So in your years as being an executive in the sports realm, how have you seen mental health's importance really kind of shift and improve with whether it's the other people on a board with you or whether it's the athletes that you work with?
Yeah, I think that's, a really great question. I think the way that I would put it is that mental health has always been incredibly important, and it has always been something that has been, so fundamental to athletes and the sports world. What I've seen shift is the sort of public perception, allowing athletes and folks in this space the space to talk about it. I think you have a lot of really brave folks who came out really early to talk about their own mental health struggles, to share things that were really personal to them, to try to understand that, if when they were younger, if they were in a certain headspace, if they had known that someone that they looked up to and idolized and thought really had it all together, struggled with similar things, that could have been really impactful for them. And so I think you're seeing this really incredible development where athletes and folks around the sports space are becoming more and more comfortable sharing their own personal struggles and also highlighting the importance of these mental health resources. I think it's something that particularly in women's sports and particularly in women's soccer is so vital when you're in a space where especially as athletes, it's incredibly high pressure. It's incredibly high stress. There is, so much unknown. There is so much, I think, personal identity really wrapped up in your career and decisions week in and week out about your playing time, about, your value to a team can become so tied to your own identity and your own perceptions about yourself that really making sure that these athletes have the resources that they need. And then those staff members who are supporting them, right? I think sometimes we forget about those folks in this conversation. Behind every team, behind every athlete, there are, a lot of staff members who are also on the road perpetually, that are away from their families, that are away from their support systems, that are pouring hours and hours and hours into this world. And so I think the more that we can show them support, the more that we can get these resources in place for really everyone, the better we all are. And I think being able to kind of shine a light on these resources that exist in our communities is so important and so special. So I'm so grateful to see that shift happening and to see clubs continuing to support their athletes and their staff in doing that.
Yes, and not just pay lip service, but actually really go all in and be, because they see the difference that it can make, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, it's the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do, but it's also a good business decision, right? People who are more supported, who feel better resourced, who then have that sort of focus and clarity and tenacity around, their day to day are better staff members, are better partners, are better players. And so I think being able to kind of have that both and, right? Morally, it is the right thing to do, but also it makes sense from a business perspective. And so, for whatever reason, whichever club is doing it, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because the athletes and the staff are still getting that support that they need. And so, exactly to your point, it's not lip service. You see these clubs putting their money where their mouth is and providing those resources. And so, I think you're starting to kind of see all of those pieces. And that's something that's really important to us here at Aurora too, right? How can we support our athletes in building a really strong foundation of understanding their own mental health, their own mental skills, the resources that maybe they do or don't have, and where they could try to find those when they go somewhere else. Whether that's to go back into what we all know is an incredibly high stress, high pressure environment of a D1, collegiate athlete system where we've got these student athletes who they are really working to, knock it out of the park academically while having all of these challenges and time commitments being an athlete, or whether that's going into the professional space where there are, different but equally as stressful environmental factors of fighting for your spot and being a rookie and joining this team. And so for us, if we can equip them with some of these resources and sort of some of this mental fortitude to understand what they're getting into, we really hope that we can send them into that world, both as sort of stronger, more well-equipped athletes, but also as people who know how to ask for what they need and know how to seek out those resources when they need them.
Well, I want to thank you personally as well, because it's in part because of the work that you and your consulting firm did. Yes, you say you came to Minnesota just 4 months ago, but you started evaluating this club after their inaugural season. And because of you evaluating the player's experience and all of that, that helped you to add on a mental skills coach, right? And then to take it the step further. So first of all, thank you for being that aware, and also for really being a part of the Aurora family before you were even a part of the Aurora family, correct?
It's true. I certainly will take that. I like to claim that I'm always proud to be associated with Aurora however I can. And I think it's just a testament to the club that, they took that recommendation of a mental skills coach and immediately turned around and implemented it. I don't always see that, right? In the work that I don't do, I don't always see that sort of immediate willingness to turn around and do that. And I think that you can kind of see, here we are 3 years later. You can see how that through line really helped. You can see how these athletes, I think every single year, the pressure gets greater, right? Every single year we have an undefeated regular season. Every single game feels more pressure. And so, I like to think about how are we going to support those athletes, if and when something doesn't go our way, and this sort of amazing magical run shifts and changes because it's sports, right? And it always does. And there's always going to be a point at which what we're doing looks a little different or looks a little more difficult. And so how can we really be proactive in supporting these athletes who give so much to this club, particularly in this space where they are amateur athletes? They are not paid to be here. They can't be, right? They can't lose their NCAA eligibility. Right. And so these athletes really are giving so much of themselves to this club and this community. And we have a really deep responsibility to support them in return.
Well, I like to celebrate very strong, smart women, especially so women in the sports world. And we know that you're the chief of staff, but I also want to give people like even a more colorful palette of where I know you've come from Texas, but went to University of Southern California. Then you got a master's, right? University of Cambridge, Judge Business School. That is no easy task. I know friends that have gone there. And then now you're a global sports fellow at Harvard, which I want to delve more into that. What exactly is, first of all, kudos to you for all of that. Thank you for being a strong, smart woman and supporting other women. I'm all for that. But what is a global sports fellow? And what do you do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Global Sports Initiative at Harvard at the Weatherhead Center is a really incredible program where, the group at Harvard has really looked to bring together folks who have interesting research to do in the world of sports that are looking to really advance sports for good. And so what I've really loved about that is it's taken, sort of what I would call these non-traditional, non-academics and put them in this really elite academic environment with the support that they need to do really impactful work. And so you've got people like, Justin Morrow, who is one of the founders of, the Black Players Union and Collective in Major League Soccer. You've got people like Susie Petricelli, who is doing work and her work focused on the prize pot being equalized in the World Cup. And I could go on and on and on about my co-fellows. I think the coolest part about this program is the people that I get to meet and work with. And really the intention is just to bring together people who have that desire to do really impactful work in equity and diversity and all of these pieces in sports, and give them the resources to do that in a way that is just amplified. And so, we had an incredible conference that we participated in with Nottingham Forest on racial and gender equity in football, soccer for the Americans, and really just creating these pathways and creating these points of connection to share work, share thoughts, share resources, and really just to continue to drive this really important work. And it's funny, we started as it's meant to be a global sports initiative. Our first couple of years, we joked the global soccer initiative because it seemed like everybody was really focusing on soccer. But we've got some great new fellows who are doing great work in American football and other spaces. And so it's just a really exciting group to be a part of. And I learn so much from them every day, every time I read some of their research or get on a call to talk about, what's happening in our world and what's happening in sports. It really is just the greatest group to be a part of.
And to be able to also have tangible things to give them as feedback that you were seeing in your own community. And now with Aurora, that must be powerful for you to not just talk, as a think tanker and talk about it, but to say, well, we put this in place and this is what happened. And look at our community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something I try to do in my work, is really walk the line of academic rigor in a way that lends legitimacy and lends, sort of specificity to the work that you're doing without going too far into the sort of academic doctrine in a way that it takes it away from that practice and that sort of everyday implementation. And so it's been really great to be surrounded by a group of people who think really similarly of, okay, how can I take these lessons I'm learning from academic best practices to make sure my research is really rigorous and make sure I'm coming up with conclusions that feel grounded in data and something I can really, support. But then in a way that I can actually just turn around and immediately implement it. We've got folks who are working in FIFA and in, federations and within organizations. And so exactly to your point, to be able to say, hey, how are you tackling this? I saw this is happening. How is that actually working inside your organization? Is it going well? Are there things you wish you would have done differently? Are there lessons you've learned from that? And so to be able to have access to these just incredible brains to gut check everything that we're doing and to really, learn and bounce ideas off of has been incredibly valuable.
Well, this is the perfect note to end on because I find you to be incredibly valuable. From before we even took you into Minnesota, now we don't let you go. And I'm not a native Minnesotan either, but I can say that now because I came here and I've never left. So thank you for not only embracing Aurora, but embracing Minnesota and embracing what's important to female athletes and athletes in general, male, female, both. It's not, exclusive only to females. So thank you for being a strong woman who empowers women, includes men. That's a strong platform of mine. We're not exclusionary and really making a difference in this world. And I wish you the best of luck with this NAMI mental health jersey auction. It's just fantastic. Can you remind our listeners it goes through September 20th, correct? And how can they get involved?
That's correct. It goes through September 20th. You can visit us at mnaurora.com to link to the auction, link out to NAMI and all of those resources. And thank you, Dawn, for the work that you're doing and the platform that you're providing to women, to men, to people who are doing really good work. It's really a joy to get to chat with you and be part of this. So thank you for having me. And thank you for always being such a supporter of Aurora. We couldn't do it without this community and all of your support.
Oh, thank you. And I'm with you. Year 5 is a high five, right? We're going to high five a championship, right? High five.
Yeah, we are. We're going to high five over that trophy.
That's right. Oh, Saara Hassoun, Chief of Staff, Minnesota Aurora. Thank you so much, not only for your time, but your valuable words. And I look forward to many more successes and having you on again, if you don't mind.
I would love to. Anytime. You give me a call. You know where to find me. Like you said, I'll be in Minnesota. It's taken hold of me, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to leave both by my own choice, but my fiance came and I can't get rid of him. He loves it.
Yeah, just brace yourself for the winter, girl. That's all I'm saying.
I keep hearing that. I know. I need to get a good coat. That's what I've been told. So I'm on my way.
The key is layers, soft, multiple soft layers. That is the key. You will be fine. Saara, thank you so much.
Thank you.